So by now, I have no doubt that many of you have caught wind of the drama that has emerged in light of a particular YouTuber by the name of ShoeOnHead, who made a video talking about the epidemic of male loneliness. Now, normally I'm not interested in drama. In fact, I'm almost never interested in drama. But that's not really what I want to focus on in this video. It's a worthwhile topic because of her reaction video more than anything else, as well as the general reactions to it. But for the record, for those who don't know, I don't know terribly much about ShoeOnHead. She is a female YouTuber. She's been around for a long time. So she combines two attributes. She combines the first mover effect, which is very powerful on YouTube, meaning if you started really early, let's say you had a movie review channel and you started 2013 and you just kept on going, even if your channel wasn't good, you probably would still be around and be doing pretty well. So she had that first mover effect, and she's a woman. She used to have some dalliance with some guy called Armored Skeptic. I think he divorced her, although I don't know all the details about that, but that's neither here nor there. So basically you have an okay-looking woman who's been posting on YouTube for a long time, hence why she's so big, blah, blah, blah. Nothing to be seen there, not very remarkable. But there's been a lot of reaction to it, and it goes to show a number of things. There are two key issues that I want to focus on in this video as to why many people, specifically men, can't really regard someone such as ShoeOnHead as being legitimate, authentic, and sincere. At the end of the day, we have no idea. I'm not a mind reader. You're not a mind reader. We don't really know if she's being sincere. Who knows? But there are a couple of factors here, the two of them being the most important. Number one, obviously, many people have been talking about this for a long time. I would include myself here. If you're here, you probably know I've been around for a very long time on YouTube. But other people have as well, obviously. But that in itself is kind of unremarkable. What really has happened and why typically when women make videos of this sort in today's day and age, meaning in late 2023, why it upsets a lot of men specifically, is because of the barrier to entry or the lack thereof. You see, what we can observe here is somewhat analogous to the Overton window, that barrier in politics where you're not supposed to say certain things and sometimes it gets shifted and then you can. Women vet every situation in their lives, on average, obviously. Most women vet different situations, vet the relationships they pursue with people, they vet the situations they enter in, because women are always concerned about safety. Social vetting and safety vetting are one of their number one concerns. They don't like taking risks. Now in 2023, it just isn't very risky to make a video saying that men are lonely or there's a male epidemic of loneliness or there are issues affecting men. Many people are talking about this. It sort of shifted over into the realm of acceptability not too long ago, maybe about 2 years ago, 3 tops. But these days you can talk about it. It's not a big deal to talk about male loneliness. And in fact, in many ways, it's a hot button topic. But women always need to vet everything. And so then you ask the question, where were the women 10, 11, 12 years ago? Well, there were a few. Karen Strawn, aka Girl Writes What, the Honey Badgers, they were talking about that stuff way back when it wasn't popular. But that's just a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of women. The vast majority of women weren't even aware of this. Because, and this will be my second point that I'll talk about more extensively in a bit, they couldn't relate to it, they have no idea, they weren't paying attention, whatever. So it took a long time for this version of the Overton window to shift, for women to feel comfortable and safe enough, because now it's a socially vetted topic, you can talk about it. Still not a super, super conventional topic, but it's safe to talk about it if you have enough presence and as a woman that you're willing to talk about it. And so ShoeOnHead isn't the only one. There are a bunch of women who are willing to talk about it now because it's relatively easy to talk about. You'll get a lot of reactions, many of them negative, but you're not really going to suffer much for talking about this. And we see this with everything across the board. Every area of life, whether it's entertainment, gaming, political topics, you name it, women will wait for something to become socially acceptable, i.e. within the Overton window, safe, and then they will enter it. Talked a lot about this on this channel with gaming. Gaming used to be geeky, nerdy, not cool. Stay away. Oh, now it's okay? In come the women. Going to the gym used to be, ooh, weird, muscle bound, blah, blah, blah. Now it's cool. Okay, now we have not just unisex gyms, but all women gyms that exclude men. There's essentially no male spaces left because every area of life, for the most part, has been vetted for social acceptance and safety. And now women feel, quote unquote, empowered enough to enter into those areas because there are no barriers anymore, at least in their own minds. Never mind what's happened to men. So part of this just comes down to this whole social vetting process. A lot of these negative reactions stem from the fact that, look, you were not in the trenches. You're riding on the coattails of other people's willingness to take risks and take chances in a political, cultural atmosphere where it was very, very much frowned upon, to say the least, if not outright banned in certain circles. And you're just making a video getting millions of views and, good for you, but you didn't pay your dues. And this is the unfortunate reality we inhabit, gentlemen. Men always trailblaze some topic, some area. Sometimes physically, they're explorers, think Lewis and Clark. And then, once it's okay, once it's safe, in come the women. Now talking about male loneliness is acceptable. Okay, so women can talk about it, and ShoeOnHead can talk about it. And she's surprised about the reactions. Well, she just hasn't thought this through. She wasn't doing the work 12 years ago, and she wasn't terribly interested in the topic, presumably, 12 years ago. So it's a bit suspicious. The second important element here is the element of relatability, which does tie into the first to some degree. Relatability is king. It really is. It's what makes or breaks many human relationships. You might have things in common. I've talked about this before. Maybe you share certain types of sport that you enjoy, or certain types of video games, or activities, or films. But that doesn't mean that there's going to be a relatability in terms of your reception of those things, or even overlapping your personality, and most importantly, your experience with these things. No matter how much time and energy you invest in something to understand it, understanding is not the same thing as experiencing it and being able to relate to it. I remember years ago, when I was in my mid-20s, talked about this guy before, there's this Frenchman, Jules. The guy was something like 6'1", 2, very attractive, 8+, easily on the look scale. And needless to say, he was fending off the women with a stick. And you took average guys like myself or another guy I used to know, and he might listen to us, and he kind of understood, but he always had that weird glaze in his eyes as if he really didn't have a clue of what you're talking about. So maybe he understood it intellectually, just like I could intellectually understand the life of a Chad, or even more visceral experiences, like very few people who don't have chronic insomnia can understand my situation. So the problem fundamentally with a popular, decently attractive woman on YouTube is she might talk about it. For all we know, she might even be sincere in her thoughts, who knows? But there's no way she can actually relate to that degree of loneliness. Because although it's not uniquely the province of men, it is almost uniquely the province of men. The vast majority of people who suffer from social isolation, lack of friendships, lack of human connection are men. And when you have that equation and you have a woman coming over saying, oh, this is really bad, a lot of men will react positively, thinking, oh my God, she gets it, she gets it. Of course she doesn't get it. And who knows if she's actually sincere. And another group of men will just say, oh, she's just exploiting this situation, blah, blah, blah. We don't really know at the end of the day. But one thing we do know is that this situation that she's describing for all these men, that is not really relatable to her. And that is the point of disconnect. So you end up with a situation where either, in the best case scenario, it's some kind of sincere sympathy emerging from the intellectual capacity to understand something potentially, but it stays at the level of the intellect, or it's just pure BS. Who knows? We don't know. This isn't just a male-female thing. When you really can't relate to somebody, there is a huge, huge barrier to entry in terms of getting along with the person, being able to understand their situation. It's just very, very important. And let's be honest, it seems very unlikely that somebody like ShoeOnHead meets those criteria. I really, really doubt she knows what it's like to be a sub-5 guy with no friends, a dysfunctional family, and no prospects for the future. Basically a life of predictable and utter misery. And even some men can't relate to that, depending on where they are on the scale. The closer you are to that, the more it's going to be relatable to you. But if you're like Jules, the Chad French guy I used to know, or anyone who's decently attractive and doing okay, then the sub 5 socially isolated dysfunctional family situation is going to be alien to those people too, even though they are men. So this matter of relatability is arguably the most important one. And sorry, whether ShoeOnHead is sincere or not, it is almost a certainty that the situations that she's describing for men are largely, if not wholly, unrelatable to her. At the end of the day, social vetting aside, and yes, that was a huge factor. That's the reason that women like ShoeOnHead are even willing to make videos of this sort. And relatability or lack thereof aside as well, this situation isn't going to change. We need to face the music. More and more men are going to get lonelier and lonelier. The situation almost certainly, at least in the West, is going to get worse. There's no question about that. And talking about it, unfortunately, as we all know, doesn't do a whole lot, right? And so it's kind of like adding a bit of salt to the wound when you have somebody who can't relate at all talk about these things. Yes, for some men, it kind of feels good. Oh, wow, a woman's talking about it. She gets it. No, she doesn't. She doesn't really get it. Whatever her ultimate motives are, somebody like ShoeOnHead just doesn't get it, which is fine. She's a completely different person, has different attributes. I've dealt with tons of people over the decades who don't know what it's like to not be able to get a good night's sleep. And it's annoying, but it is what it is. The only real question, and I think it's already answered, more or less, is what happens when the mass of men get so lonely, so dysfunctional, so out to lunch, so out there, that it's impossible not to notice, and we can actually see, as it were, the undergirdings of society itself buckle and fall apart. It could get there eventually. I'm not sure. Would something change then? I don't really know. Remember, I've talked about this in the past. Women have gotten a helping hand in basically everything they've done. Men, especially these days, almost never. Would you then have some kind of intervention that would at least attempt to help men out of their situations? Probably not. We're just too divided as a society, too disconnected from each other. There's no cohesion. We don't know each other anymore. We can't relate to each other. Everything's just too fractured. So yes, it will probably all get worse. And yes, there's probably very little that can be done about it. At least at the end of the day, some men might be able to relate to your situation. And it doesn't change it. It doesn't help it that much. But it makes it a little easier to get through the day. And that can make a hell of a difference sometimes. That relatability. And in some cases, it is a matter of life or death whether somebody gets you in your situation or not. And I'll leave it at that. Anyway, as always, thank you for tuning in. Many special thanks to my patrons. You guys are the best. And many special thanks to my donors on PayPal. You guys are equally the best. And if you engage in the usual YouTube jazz of liking the video, sharing the video, leaving a comment, subbing if you're not yet a sub, be much appreciated. Until the next time, take care. May the gods watch over you. If I'm still alive, we'll talk then. Bye-bye for now. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.